After a lengthy journey, they finally reach William's palace, accompanied by Lauren's group. Despite the friendly demeanor of the people there, it's evident they harbor animosity towards Carl. Princess Sylvia's disdain for him is also apparent. William surprises Carl's group by barring their entry into the castle, instead assigning Vivian and Ray to the unkempt barracks. This unexpected treatment shocks Carl, especially considering their supposed status as castle guests. William justifies his actions by singling out Vivian for her previous humiliation of him, branding her as a low-level soldier unfit for the castle's accommodations. Carl is outraged by William's behavior, but Vivian manages to soothe him. He worries about her well-being, disliking the idea of her being treated as a low-ranking soldier. William's suspicions about Vivian's origins lead him to investigate her past, convinced she hails from Earth like him. Vivian, exhausted from her tasks, feels particularly drained by evening, exacerbated by her inability to eat properly among the other soldiers. Thankfully, Ray visits her, bringing dinner and inquiring about her plans to return to the real world. Vivian, caught off guard, questions Ray's desire for her presence, to which he expresses the Northern Castle's wish for her to stay. She insists on returning to fulfill Carl's dream of becoming emperor. Ray suggests that if Carl marries Princess Sylvia, Vivian may not need to return to the real world, as Sylvia could facilitate Carl's ascension to the throne. Distressed by this notion, Vivian flees. Meanwhile, Sylvia's servant attempts to dissuade her from pursuing Carl due to his flaws, but Sylvia remains resolute, seeking vengeance against her half-sister Froch by marrying Carl. During dinner with Carl, Sylvia tries to negotiate their marriage, citing the strategic advantages it would bring, including access to the Lauren Kingdom's secret weapon, the crossbow. She even tries to seduce Carl, but he rebuffs her advances, adamant that he will only marry for love. Enraged by his rejection, Sylvia loses control. Meanwhile, Vivian, fleeing from Ray, encounters a small monster in the forest, unable to harm it due to its cuteness. Daisy silently observes her contemplation of returning to Earth. She approaches Vivian and asks her what she means by going to the other world. Vivian is struggling to convey her current situation to Daisy, but she eventually manages to say that she needs to return home since her family is worried about her. Daisy opposes her return because she knows Vivian has feelings for Carl, and she cannot see the prince marrying Sylvia. However, Vivian feels that she needs to go back home and turn things right for Carl, even though she admits that she likes him. She feels embarrassed after saying that and runs away, unaware that Carl is hiding nearby, and he overheard the girls talk about him amidst the bustle of the event preparations. The following day, Carl, Ray, and Vivian venture to the underground area in search of the portal leading to Earth. Since Carl rejected Sylvia's marriage proposal, they have to continue with this strategy. Upon their covert entrance into the underground room, they make a startling revelation. There exists no door that leads to a tunnel. Only a wall is within sight. Infuriated, Carl slams his fist against the wall, and suddenly the wall starts shaking and making a weird noise. It appears that the dead-end wall is a trapdoor that leads to the tunnel. Carl and his team hastily enter the tunnel, but the presence of numerous soldiers stationed in the basement puts a stop to their plans. They are taken aback that William deployed so many troops to the basement, and they decide to make their way back to the castle's main hall, where the banquet is about to start. Daisy waits impatiently for Carl and the others to arrive in the banquet hall near the entrance to the dungeon. When they return to the room, her worries vanish. The party starts, and Vivian finds that Ray is a proper noble and has a good reputation. But as soon as Carl enters, people start talking about him. Soon, a female knight named Minerva comes to the party and greets Ray and Carl. She is the divorced wife of Prince Win and the female lead of Vivian's second novel. Needless to say, she is her girl crush, and Vivian tells Minerva that it is a great honor to meet her. Minerva appears to dislike her, and she immediately slaps her, causing the entire banquet hall to fall silent. She asks Vivian where her manners are as a knight because this is not how she is supposed to greet her. Commander Carl rushes to Vivian's rescue and fights with Minerva about how she is treating her. Meanwhile, William is unaware that Minerva has come to his castle because Princess Sylvia is in his office offering him the design for the crossbow owned by Middelloren in exchange for his help. William tells her that he will think about it, but as he leaves his office, a servant informs him that Minerva is in his castle and is fighting with Vivian. Vivian and Minerva are fighting to their heart's content, and soon William reaches the courtyard to enjoy the show as well. After the fierce fight, Vivian is brought into the castle for treatment. Initially, everyone lacked awareness of the wound on Vivian's hand. However, Carl knows very well that Vivian's hand must be injured. After blocking several sword strikes from Minerva, he takes her hand to look at the wounds and tries to treat them. Fortunately, Daisy understands the situation, and she quickly makes an excuse that she will look for medicine outside with Ray. Carl is pleased with Daisy's prompt understanding of his wishes, and he plans to give her a bonus. She deserves a raise for being the best wingman. Carl and Vivian are left alone in the room, and he continues to treat her hand. Vivian is taken aback because she wasn't expecting Carl to be this concerned about her. He places his hand on her cheek, his curiosity piqued by her rising temperature. Vivian turns red like a tomato because of how close they are. Carl moves towards her for a kiss, and their lips almost touch. But then Ray returns to spoil the mood. "Get a life, dude!" Carl stretches while Vivian clutches the medicine box, trying to hide what is going on. Both of them are anxious that Ray and Daisy caught them off guard, but she assures him that everything is fine now. After that, the four of them continue their objective and head to the underground area. Vivian has a bright idea and brings along her notebook and pen. She writes down her desire in the book and becomes Ant-Man to sneak into the tunnel. Everyone promptly gets down to action. However, William's maid, Erden, suspects Daisy because she noticed Daisy entering the room with Carl and leaving alone. Meanwhile, Vivian manages to enter the room. She sprints from one room to another, but soon realizes her small size makes her take a long time to cross a room. She collapses onto the floor, exhausted from running, and then suddenly a rat comes up to her. She is afraid of rats and runs, but the rat chases her until she can no longer run away from it. She wishes that someone comes to her aid, and as plot armor may have it, her wish comes true. Out of nowhere, the monster she recently encountered appears and squashes the mouse. The mouse runs away, leaving Vivian behind. She is very happy when the little monster comes to save her life, and she also asks it for a ride to take her up the stairs. Once upstairs, she leaves the little monster for a while to get into another room. Vivian discovers a massive iron door in the room, complete with a number lock mirroring the real world. She forgot that William is from the real world, so he could have created that to stop anyone from going back there. Now she returns to see Carl with the assistance of the little monster. Meeting Carl and Ray causes her body to grow once more. Upon her return, she briefs them about her observations, and they hurry back to the main hall. However, as they open the door, William and his army are on guard. They also notice Daisy, who is bound with a rope. William arrests all four of them and carries them out where he ties them. Carl demands to be released, but William simply ignores him and rudely asks Vivian if she is from the real world. "Be nice to your author, dude. You will be killed in the next novel otherwise." After that, he tries to intimidate and question Vivian, and he goes on to claim that Vivian is actually a witch from Carl Castle. She knows she can't escape this situation by lying, so she fearlessly confesses to being a witch. She is well aware of William's fear of monsters and ghosts. Furthermore, she reveals that she knows William's real name from the other world. William is astonished to discover that Vivian knows his real name. He becomes so angry that he threatens to kill her so she doesn't reveal his secret. Vivian doesn't have much choice, so she screams. But little does she know how it will turn out. A peculiar noise stops William's knife from hitting Vivian, and soon her savior, the little monster, makes its appearance. He is not alone, and he has brought a number of adult monsters with him to save Vivian. The monsters come down and stand behind Vivian. William attempts to flee from the monsters that are encircling him. However, he is now completely powerless, and even after his knights arrive to aid him, nothing changes. Meanwhile, Carl and Ray are filled with fear as they witness Vivian's proximity to the monsters. Afraid that the monsters will also attack her, they quickly learn that the monster is actually here to save Vivian. Then Vivian orders the monsters to play around with William because he keeps threatening her despite being scared himself. The monsters do as she orders, and the poor prince gets scared and shouts that he just wants to live happily in this world. Vivian is about to enter the castle when the little monster runs to her feet, wanting to come with her. Unfortunately, more soldiers are coming there, and Vivian tells him and the other monsters to go back for now, even though the cute baby monster is crying. After that, they reach inside the castle and discuss what is happening with the monsters. William becomes anxious when he learns that Vivian has the ability to control the monsters. He worries that they may have known his secret all along and shared it with her. He also wants to know if she sent him a letter, but she doesn't know what he's talking about, so the prince aborts that conversation. After that, Vivian makes it clear that she intends to go back to the real world, but for that she needs to know the code to the tunnel under the castle. William is also curious about Vivian's desire to return to real life, but she is reluctant to disclose the reason. He tries to tempt her with rewards to stay here, but she refuses to listen to him. However, William is very stubborn, so Carl makes a bet with him. He challenges his half-brother to a horse race on the final day of Urnfist. If he loses, he promises that he and Vivian, as well as the monsters, will not disturb the castle in the east. But if he wins, William has to comply with his wishes. Vivian is surprised to hear Carl's statement because she fears Carl will lose the race, but he is confident this time. The following day, the Urnfist ball dance takes place, and Vivian feels that the noble girls look beautiful and graceful in dresses. Ray pities her for not wearing a dress, despite Vivian being perfectly content with her current attire of knightly clothes. After the two of them chat for a while, Vivian says goodbye to Ray and goes to the barracks. She hears everyone talking about Carl's defeat in the horse race there and feels guilty for that. She ignores Carl when he comes to see her. On the other hand, after Vivian departs, Ray is immediately greeted by Carl's mother, Lady Brenda. He was unaware that Lady Brenda is present at the castle today, despite being expected to be at the Capitol. He freaks out upon seeing her, but as he turns around to look for Carl, he is surprised to see Carl's sister Lily waiting for him. The two continue talking until Carl arrives, and he is taken aback when he sees Lily at the castle. After that, they have tea together, but he worries his mother might meet Princess Sylvia. His fears have already come true as his mom meets Sylvia on her way to see William, and they decide to catch up later. After her meeting with Carl and Ray, Lily feels disheartened. She currently has a massive crush on Ray, and Carl is aware of it, but he informed his sister that he wouldn't assist her with that, although he wouldn't object either. He fears that suggesting anything about Lily to Ray will come across as an order, so he wants to stay clear of it. Lily keeps sighing about her condition and meets her match in Vivian, who is doing the same. Vivian immediately recognizes her from her hair, and then introduces herself as Carl's personal bodyguard. Lily is very happy when she finds out about her and asks her about the North and her brother, who is always cold to her. She also wants to take Vivian's help to tell Ray about her crush. After her stroll with Daisy, she returns to the castle and can't stop thinking about it. Soon, she hears someone knocking on the door and finds that it is Carl. She avoids him again, but Carl wants to give Vivian something, so he holds the door open. He can't find the words to tell her what he wants. When he hands Vivian a box with a red dress inside, he tells her to wear it to the ball tonight and races away from her. Unable to control his nervousness, Vivian returns to her room to look at the dress that Carl gave her when she hears another knock on the door. This time, it is Ray who has brought a blue dress for her for tonight's event. Now, Vivian is more confused than ever about which dress to choose. Vivian can't make up her mind between the red and blue dresses, and soon Daisy comes to her room to assist her in putting on a dress. She is taken aback because she is unable to comprehend why the girl has been offered two dresses. She reasons that Carl could have asked Ray for assistance, who went out and purchased an additional dress. Then, Lily enters Vivian's room because she wants to ask Daisy for help dressing her. She feels so self-conscious about attending the ball alone that she invites Vivian to accompany her. Meanwhile, Carl meets with his mother, who is determined to marry him off to Sylvia in order to make him the next emperor. He enters the ball and attracts all the spotlight because of his stunning formal attire. After Carl, Lily shows up, and she can't take her gaze off of Ray. Susie and Vivian also come there wearing the red dress Carl gave her. Ray is devastated, but Carl is very happy. That's the obvious result. But I feel sorry for Ray. Soon after that, Vivian tells Ray that Carl gifted her a dress before him, so she decided to wear it. He acts cool, but Lily hears it too, and she is not happy about it. Soon, a group of men gather around Vivian, introduce themselves, and start to flirt with her. She is taken aback, but thankfully Carl rescues her and tells everyone to get lost. Carl compliments her dress and teases her about how beautiful it looks on her. Vivian's cheeks flush red, and Lily and Minerva are shocked to see their budding romance, and all they need now is popcorn. However, Ray suppresses his disappointment and clenches his fists. Shortly after that, Princess Sylvia arrives in the ballroom with William as her flower knight. Everyone is taken aback by that sight. Carl's mom is so enraged by this that she summons her son to have a chat, and he leaves with her. As the celebrations begin, William and Princess Sylvia were making their rounds at the ball, and he is astonished to see Minerva there. William confirmed with his maid Erden that Minerva won't be at the ball in advance, but she twisted her words and lied to him. William abandons Princess Sylvia and goes after Minerva to give explanations for his actions. But she is extremely disappointed in him and finds no value in any justifications he offers. Carl, who comes out of the room where he and his mother are conversing earlier, catches a glimpse of the argument between William and Minerva. He turns his attention from them to his sister, who leaves the room with a sorrowful expression. Sylvia was furious at the two brothers and she cursed them. She also remembered the chat she had with William while they negotiated the deal about crossbows. She believed that she could win William over because of his divorce, but she was mistaken because despite the divorce, William admits that Minerva is still the only one for him. While they keep dancing, Vivian and Ray move closer to where Princess Sylvia is sitting and gradually catch wind of what she is saying. Once they notice her departure, they promptly plot their next move. However, Carl shows up just then and wants to know where they are headed. Even though he sees that Ray and Vivian are dancing, he still wants to know what they are doing. However, his questions only cause Ray to hold Vivian's hand tighter. Carl tells him to release her hand, and he obeys his command. After some time after that, Carl pulls Vivian outside the palace by grabbing her hand. While she complains that it hurts, Carl hurries to the palace garden while still holding her hand. He releases it when she insists and then tells her that seeing her dance with Ray made him envious, especially because it's her first at a formal event. She offers Carl a dance as her way of calming him down. He turns red with embarrassment and takes her hand timidly, and the two of them begin to dance. While dancing, they grow closer as they enjoy themselves. Carl then explains the significance of the first dance to Vivian. He gently kisses her lips to convey that a first dance is something like a first kiss. Vivian is not okay for the rest of the night and is unsure of how to act when they will meet again. Suddenly, the sound of a knock on the door sends her into a state of heightened terror. As she opens the door, Carl is standing there. She is startled and feels anxious, feeling uneasy in his presence. He is there to invite her to the Urnfest night, where the festival truly comes alive. During the Urnfest festival, they have fun, and after enjoying themselves, they proceed to the maze. Carl invites Vivian to the maze on purpose so he can show her something. Then Carl does something special for Vivian. He stomps his foot and the maze fireflies awaken and begin to glow around them. As fireflies light up the maze, it transforms from a terrifying haunted house into a stunningly beautiful maze. Much to her astonishment, they speak for a long time while they are in the maze. Vivian eventually expresses her worry about Carl's participation in the horse riding race. She feels bad for writing the story in such a way that it prevents Carl from getting even with William. Listening to her statements makes Carl very angry as he feels that Vivian sees him as a pathetic person who only wants revenge against William. He promises to try his best to return her home because Vivian is more precious to him than mere imperial status. Carl leaves her to search for the manager to guide them out of the maze, and Vivian is overcome with emotion as he departs. She did not anticipate Carl's genuine feelings for her. She fears for his safety in the following race and is already overwhelmed with regret over her misunderstanding of him. She lets out a scream and confesses that she, too, likes Carl. As she finishes speaking, Carl comes before her again. She felt embarrassed because Carl overheard her, but he felt overjoyed because he now understands Vivian's feelings. He wastes no time kissing Vivian passionately and embracing her closely until his feelings get through to her. Vivian hugs him, and Carl feels more assured that he will prevail over William. After spending the night with her, he is confident that he will win, since no god is trying to make him lose this time. The racers take their positions, and at the host's signal, the race starts. Everyone speeds off to the forest and the hills. Vivian is very anxious that something will happen to Carl, so she constantly monitors his movements through the binoculars that Daisy provided her. Carl and William are in the lead, but as soon as the group reaches the hilly region, her binocular vision diminishes. Fortunately, she has her book and pen on hand, so she writes her wish and gets a superpower to see through the trees. She goes back to watching Carl, and then she notices that as everyone starts to make their way along the cliff edge, someone is preparing to throw rocks from the cliff top. Furiously, though, the rocks are tossed to the ground right as Carl is about to go over the precipice. Fortunately, he manages to evade the falling stones and keeps running after William. But after witnessing this, Vivian cannot stay silent. She gets up from her seat and approaches the referee. While Sylvia thinks that the girl has sharp instincts, Vivian tells him that the match has to end due to the dangers involved. However, the referee is unable to halt the match and believes the stadium to be safe due to the presence of all the soldiers stationed there to ensure the competitors' safety. After failing to convince the referee, Vivian decides to go to the forest on her own to safeguard Carl. Ray stops her from entering the forest because they are both unaware of the dangers that might be there. However, she disregards his warning and proceeds to write in her book about her desire to run faster than anyone. After running for some time, Vivian eventually catches up to the contestants, but to avoid exposing herself, she keeps her distance from Carl. The assassins try to harm Carl multiple times, but he dodges all of them. However, they trap him in a swamp and are about to shoot him with arrows when Vivian comes there and takes them down. She writes in her book to master swordplay, and thus she easily defeats the assassins. However, the commander of assassins is not done yet, and he escapes and calls for backup. Even as she deals with them, she keeps an eye on Carl, using her supervision. Knowing that the match is almost over brings a sense of relief to her, as it signifies her success in preventing the troops from interfering with Carl. However, the commander of the assassins gives the signal for the rest of the soldiers to get ready for the assault on William and Carl. Vivian is shocked and decides to deal with the assassins first. She launches an assault on the unit leader without realizing that some masked soldiers are also pursuing her from atop the tree. One of them attempts to harm Vivian by shooting her with a crossbow, but Ray, who arrives on horseback just then, saves her by sacrificing himself. The masked soldiers eventually come down and surround Vivian. Vivian fears the commander because she knows he is quite powerful, causing her to lose focus, and the masked assassins mercilessly slash at her body. Meanwhile, Carl and William lead the race, with William still in the first position. As they both come out of the last obstacle safely, Sylvia is shocked that all her assassins have failed despite William appearing to be the clear winner. When they emerge from the thorny roots, Carl is determined to win the contest. Carl sees a parallel to his first race with William as he crosses the bridge. He directs his horse to leap over the rocks next to the bridge and wins the race. His victory catches everyone off guard, leaving them speechless. Meanwhile, William feels upset about losing, and even Minerva is heartbroken to see that, while everyone cheers on Carl, he continues to search for Vivian but can't find her. Daisy approaches him suddenly, her eyes filled with tears, and informs him that Vivian has gone to the forest with Ray in an attempt to cancel the match. In the forest, Ray and Vivian are both unconscious as the masked assassins have left them for dead.
Love the manhwa? Subscribe for more. Your support makes it all possible. Hit subscribe now!